How big should lorries be on our roads? Well, the UK government has approved the use of longer lorries, saying the move will make businesses more efficient and cut emissions. A trial's been going on since 2011, but from the end of this month, any company will be able to use them. The Scottish Government says it backs the move, but says it would monitor this change for any possible safety issues on smaller rural roads with tight bends. Let's discuss this with Martin Reid from the Scottish Road Haulage Association and Norman Baker from the Campaign for Better Transport. Good morning to both of you.
Morning. Good morning.
Martin, just explain to our audience, why are these lorries actually needed?
It's the trailers, right? So the lorries aren't getting any longer. It's the trailers themselves. Now I listened to your preamble there. These longer semi-trailers are not going to be used on rural roads and narrow roads. They're purely designed for bulk movements over longer distances. So the trials, you're rightly saying that the trial's been going on for 11 years now. Which has given the government a lot of time to come up with robust data and the study on the trial.
That sounds a very long time though, Martin, 11 years for a trial.
Yeah, well, I guess that one of the reasons that they wanted to take that time was to gather the data. And on the safety side of things, the government have said that there was 61% fewer personal injury collisions than on the standard size. So there doesn't seem to be a negative impact on the safety side of things.
Okay. Talking about safety, Norman, bring you in here. You have raised concerns about the safety of these trucks and also their environmental credentials. Just spell that out for me.
Well, I take the point that they'll be used mainly on motorways, which is one thing, but they have to access the motorways, they have to come off the motorways to unload their goods. So they will be using roads which aren't motorways. And of course, if you have these semi-trailers at the back, then the rear tail swing is much greater, almost twice as much, in fact, as lorries show now. So there is an issue there for other road users, including other motorists. So there is a safety issue there, I'm afraid, to take account of. In terms of carbon, obviously anything which is going to be greater in size, and I take the point that the actual movement's not changing, but the trailers presumably aren't running empty. That will be worse for carbon. I don't see how the government can claim it could be better for carbon. And I'd draw your attention to a 2006 Department of Transport report, commissioned actually by Heriot-Watt University, which said that anything which increased the lorry capacity would lead to an increase in CO2 emissions due to goods shifting from rail to road, create serious implications for the management of the road network, as well as reducing safety risks. And that's what the government's own advice was. So that may explain why it took 11 years to give the green light.
Well, Martin, let's bring you in here. Do you want to answer a couple of those points?
Yeah, sure. I guess the bottom line is that there's only, in terms of freight movements, there's only about 5% of UK freight movements go by rail, whereas about 90% of go on the back of a lorry. The government statistics over the trial show that there was 54 million vehicle kilometres saved, and they estimate about 70,000 tonnes of CO2, as well as 97 tonnes of NOx saved, which is the equivalent of about 2,000 diesel cars per year. So they've done their studies on this, and the environmental benefits are there. So I guess that's why they're continuing.
And Martin, there are 3,000, I think, in the UK at the moment, lorries. Will we see more now? Is that going to increase?
Well, I think a fair percentage of the people who are interested in using the LSTs will already be using them because of the part of throughout the trial.
What's an LST? Explain that.
Longer semi-trailer. Okay. That's what the government are saying. Okay. So basically, it's not. You can't just pick up a longer semi-trailer and use it on wherever you want now. There are requirements. So you need to submit a route plan that specifies the roads that you're going to use, and you need to produce a risk assessment which must stay in the cab at all times, and copies of these must stay there for 2 years or more. But you also have to notify the Secretary of State by electric communication of the intention to use an LST, and provide your operator licence details and contact details. So it's not just a case of using these on a whim. Okay. They have to be planned.
And Norman, how practical is it moving freight by rail, especially in Scotland, do you think?
Well, it is practical. I mean, let me just say the key figure which Martin gave there was less than 10% is moved by rail, as if that's somehow because rail can't compete. Rail can't compete because the road lobby over many years has been very successful in arguing for increased axle weights from 32 tonnes to 38 tonnes to 44 tonnes and making it more economical to get more goods on one lorry and therefore disadvantaging rail. But it can be done. Tesco's, for example, has a daily rail movement of fresh fruit from the south of Spain through to the UK through the Channel Tunnel. They've got a technique now whereby they use freight on rail to use goods like toothpaste, believe it or not. And rail freight has been very competitive over the last 10 years. You've seen that 10 years ago, nearly all rail freight was coal or aggregates. Only 1% now is coal. So rail can compete, but it makes it more difficult to compete if the advantage for lorries is increased.